Workbook of A Course in Miracles, and I could see peace instead of this. I think um, don't worry so much about achieving the goal of the lesson. Just be concerned with following the guidelines for the application of the lessons. And today's lesson is going to require one extra major practice period and a few extra minutes, and then the application of it throughout the day. And remember, today all applications are to be done with your eyes closed because it is your inner world to which the application of today's idea should be made. And apply it to apply it when your mind comes up with offending personalities or events. And if you're going about your seemingly mundane existence, in the course of the day, I'm sure you're going to come up with a few moments where you take offense, feel offended, and let's see what else. What is it? Oh, anything else your heart or anyone else you're harboring unloving thoughts about. Um, Note them all casually, repeating the idea for today slowly as you watch them arise in your mind, and just let each one go by to be replaced by the next one. So, obviously, the author of A Course in Miracles and our instructor for the workbook of A Course in Miracles, Jesus, recognizes that within our minds we do harbor unloving thoughts and we are going to feel offended, and it's that which we're dealing with. We're not attempting. Remember, this isn't an attempt to establish peace of mind. It's an attempt to begin to deal with the things that are preventing us from experiencing peace within our own mind, and therefore look out at the world through the eyes of peace. And I can tell you for sure that's the case because um, he talks about the idea of having difficulties with this lesson. Um, if the inroads on your peace of mind take the form of a more generalized adverse emotion, such as depression, anxiety, or worry, use the idea in the original form. I could see peace instead of this. You're offering yourself an alternative without an attempt to define the alternative, because the nature of peace has nothing to do with the world at all, and has everything to do with your relationship to your own mind, to your own thoughts, and the availability of using your mind and the relationship you have with your mind to see something other than the thoughts that you have and have been harboring, so that eventually you're sick and tired of your own thinking being the being what's adverse to your experiencing peace. Because as we've been coming to recognize throughout the entire series of lessons that we've been doing, is that there's no difference between your inner world and your outer world. The condition of your inner world becomes your experience of the outer world. As above, so below, as within, so without. So, depending on the God that you're worshiping, and the God that you have your relationship with in your own mind, you will look out with the eyes of that God and see what it is you require in order to validate the God that you're worshiping. And that's one of the way in which we can learn to use the reflection of the projected world of space and time to see what our real thoughts are, rather than to think that the surface chatter that we think is our real thinking, um, rather than to see that the surface chatter, they're not our real thoughts at all. I was having a conversation with a friend, and one of the reasons why it's important to take a look at that idea about what are your real thoughts and what aren't your real thoughts when you're thinking is this. Um, if you really understood, if you really recognized your true identity, you would immediately look at some of the thoughts that you think you're thinking and know perfectly well that that's not you, that that's not the real you doing the thinking. There used to be a form of therapy that they practiced with children back in the days when I was a caseworker at a New York City child caring agency, where you merely mirrored the thoughts that the child was expressing so that he can get a feeling for what he was thinking in his own mind. And this is, in a sense, not dissimilar from that. Um, when you come to understand and experience directly the truth of your own whole, perfect self, which remains whole and perfect despite any attempt of the ego and your need to identify with it, perhaps because you think there's safety there. Um, when you come to recognize your whole perfect self, um, created by a God of love as his love, you would know for a fact that that loving mind is not capable of thinking thoughts that harbor anything but love. Um, and talk about coming to recognize that you're not in your right mind, which is all that's saying. Is, oh, he's not in his right mind. Well, he's not in his right mind. You're not in your right mind when you are thinking thoughts of anything that would not extend wholly and perfectly from an all-inclusive totality of love, which is your perfect reality. So that mind would be incapable of thinking unloving thoughts, or seeing that there were offending personalities, because every single brother out there has utilizes the same mind that you utilize. And if you're utilizing the mind of God that you share with God and with all your brothers, and you're recognizing the totality of that mind as being an expression of love, nothing but love would be flowing from your mind. And I assure you, nothing but love is flowing from your real mind. You've just blocked the experience of that real mind from your own experience of yourself, and confused the dark night that we've condemned ourselves to, by identifying with the egoic thought of separation with who we truly are. Um, so it's interesting in my interaction in relationships with people, when there have been conversations and I'll say literally the exact words back to the person who's speaking with me. They say, I never said that. I couldn't have said that. And the truth of the matter is, they're absolutely correct in their right, whole, perfect mind, which is what they are in reality, and how you know them in reality as well. They would have been perfectly incapable of making statements of hatred, anger, fear, and the need to get rid of the things you love through some sort of form of death, it would be impossible. So it's an interesting proposition, and I've had that happen to me time and time again. Repeat directly a line that somebody says to me, is like, I would never say that. And in their right mind, they would never say that. In your right mind, you would never be able to think that. And that's what we're attempting to get at today, a way of dealing, giving yourself an alternative to the thoughts that you think you've been thinking, rather than have to continue to think them and associate them and form associations, continuous lines of association that go back to the past and enter into the future, for the purpose not really of eliminating them or dealing with them successfully, but for the purpose of maintaining the identity with the ego as who you think you are, in order to find some sort of solace or meet some goal in the world. That's not what this is about. So I want you to recognize that while you're doing this lesson, the author, Jesus, who was here just like you are, Jesus was a man who remembered the Christ and saw it in himself and all his brothers. This is the beginning of your ability to remember who you truly are, rather than to keep on bouncing off the bouncing off the thoughts that you're not and thinking those are your real thoughts. I assure you, they're not your real thoughts, and they never were your real thoughts. And those thoughts could only exist in a nightmare of our own making. So don't worry about them. And that's what this is trying to say. Watch the thoughts that are in your mind come up. Bring up. He's asking us not to think peaceful thoughts, but to allow the thoughts that harbor hatred, lacks of love, the idea that somebody is attempting to victimize us or provoke us, offending personalities in the world, the Hitlers of the world, the ISIS active cell members of the world. All of these are not in their right mind individuals, would never be seen as what you think they are in reality if you knew who you were. And that's an inside job. So these lessons are to be done with the thoughts that we think in our mind and our eyes closed. So I could see peace instead of this. The purpose is protect yourself from the temptation throughout the day. Notice it's protection. It's not the finding of peace. You're going to make a major discovery when you finally do discover the peace that passeth understanding. Because at the point where you discover the peace of mind, then the knowledge of the kingdom will begin to dawn on you, and you'll begin to live in a very personal experience, a very intimate experience, a very individual experience of being able to apply the laws of the kingdom to yourself and to all your world, and begin to live indeed by the laws of the kingdom, no longer thinking you're subject to the laws of man, but one step at a time. I could see peace instead of this. The exercise for today is not meant for you to achieve the experience of a peace that passeth understanding. Although many of you, and some of you, one of you, none of you, may have an instant of that recognition, the exercise for today is designed to help you deal with the thoughts that are not peaceful in your mind and in your heart. Give yourself the ability to let them surface so that they can arise from the repression that we've subjected them to. We no longer need to repress our own thinking, our own emotions. We're given a way to deal with the repression that we've enforced upon ourselves by attempting to push down the thoughts that are not peaceful and are not loving. And we've attempted to do that for a good reason, I might add, because somewhere in our heart and mind we know for a fact that that is not who we really are. And those thoughts cause consternation, because remember, our attack thoughts are attacking our invulnerability. And in the wholeness and perfection of the reality of the totality of the kingdom as being one of love, which you could not be a part of. Thoughts of attack, vengeance, lacks of love, the idea that you could be victimized, you could get sick, you could die, do not exist, because that is the unreality of the dream, not the reality of who you are. So go forth and practice today's lesson, because remember, peace of mind is your natural inheritance. And before we can claim our inheritance, we have to free ourselves from thinking that we've inherited, quite unexpectedly and maybe accidentally, a world in which we have to defend ourselves unto death. You're whole and perfect. Your real mind will show you who you really are. And that's not going anywhere. You're not wasting time by not experiencing it. You're utilizing time in order to heal your mind of the necessity to continue in the meaningless preoccupation of death by identifying with thoughts that you aren't and attempting to defend yourself from them. You don't have to defend yourself. Here's a way to look at those thoughts within your own mind and heart and give yourself a solution to the thinking that's preventing you from experiencing the reality of your being as the peace and love of God.